Welcome to this next video briefing. Now, taxi routes. This is an old airport. It's not like Oslo or Stockholm with its fancy roundabouts and logical layouts. Taxi routes, procedures, who controls what, are full of tweaks, exceptions, and other fun stuff. So first things first, there are standard taxi routes in Copenhagen. There are files, appendixes to the LOP, and they basically tells you everything you need to know. So this video is to affirm this thing, while of course also describing a little bit the nooks and crannies. So let's start with the 22s. On the tower side, and the other side of runway 1230, it's pretty simple. It's Alpha to Alpha 1, 2, 3, and 4 for departure. It's Bravo 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 via Bravo and... Wait, let's back up. The biggest idiocracy about Copenhagen is that there's so little space on the apron. It's alleys, it's two parallel taxiways, it doesn't have a logical flow to it. So the name of the game is to use all available taxiways and spreading them around. We will now take into consideration the different configurations and show you the way this is accomplished, something you must adhere to whenever you control. For the arrivals from the 22 left, the airport is basically split into two different sections. The ones going to Alpha 17, as well as everything northwest of that, and the other part, which is the stuff going southeast of that, meaning Alpha 4, 6, 8, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25, and so on, has a special route. They must connect from Bravo via Charlie onto runway 30 and then vacate up on Kilo 3 or Kilo 2. Kilo 3 if they go up until Alpha 23, and Kilo 2 is preferred if they go to Alpha 25 or above. This is mainly due to these 45 degrees entries to the stand. You have some freedom to play around with these two taxiways though, Kilo 2 and Kilo 3, to ease traffic flow. This is a standard taxi route. If an airplane vacates Bravo 1, 2, 3 or 4, they must go up via Charlie and up this way. If vacating via Bravo 5, then a left turn shall be made onto runway 30 to join the route. If they go to all others, then it's via Bravo, cross 30, that's all good. Now, from the 04 left, it follows the same idea. It goes up north, it turns onto runway 30 and vacates Kilo 3, Kilo 2. However, moreover, we actually split the airport again, so from 04 left into 3 sections. Now there's a middle section which covers Alpha 7, 9, 11, 12, 14, 15, as well as Bravo 4, 6, 8, 10, 16, 19. These goes in via Alpha, while for the rest of the airport it goes in via Foxtrot. It is like this, we take advantage as many taxiways as possible. Now, going the other way, departures. They're kind of similar patterns, except that Kilo 3 and Kilo 2 are now out of the picture. These two taxiways are only part of the inbound standard taxi, so don't use them for outbound unless you've coordinated it. For the outbound 2 to right, airplanes goes either via Foxtrot from the east side or via Alpha from the west side. This means that if we combine it with the arrival routes, you'll see the airplanes are actually staying pretty clear of each other. Oh, and by the way, look at these two taxiways here, Yankee and Zulu. They generally go counterclockwise, meaning that arrivals and departures from the east apron, they go west on Yankee from Bravo, and departures go east on Zulu from Lima and Mike. It looks beautiful when it works. Let's turn it around and look at the 04 right departures. Here we split the airport as well, however we split it in another place. See how the 22s were split in between these two taxiways? Same for the 04. Here is the split moved down here, meaning taxiways Delta and Bravo are now used as the two departure routes. Patterns are basically the same. Departures goes from Lima, east on Zulu, and then Delta for departures. And from the east it goes, well, directly to Bravo, with Kilo 3, Kilo 2 being used as previously explained, only inbounds. This leads us to the first exceptions, because if using Zulu to go east for the arrivals from Foxtrot, then you will get a gridlock on Bravo. Therefore, we taxi airplanes more easily on Yankee from Foxtrot, taking as much advantage of the taxiway space as we can. This gives kind of a nice junction for inbounds and outbounds at the eastern apron. From Delta Bravo, the airplanes merge later on and gets taxied down to the holding points. So, in overview, this is the standard taxi for 2 to right, 2 to left. Airplanes come in via Bravo or Kilo 2, Kilo 3, depending on where they park, western or eastern sector. They travel counterclockwise on Zulu Yankee, just like the departures, which then leave via Foxtrot or Alpha, again, depending on western or eastern side. Also, this is the standard for the 04s. Again, airplanes goes in via Kilo 2, Kilo 3, Alpha or Foxtrot, so depending where they go to the western, the eastern or the Mike Alley. They travel counterclockwise as well on Zulu Yankee, with the exceptions of the inbound via Foxtrot who travels via Yankee. This is an addition as well to when the airplanes are pushed with faces in a direction that doesn't fit with the counterclockwise direction, in which case they just follow the correct path when they can. A good example of this would be the Alpha 12 to 15, which are pushed to Yankee 1 and Yankee 0 facing east, forcing them to taxi just a very small straight line in the opposite direction before they can join Mike and then Zulu for the right direction. As you may remember from the first video, there's an area of responsibility for a tower on runway 1230, and as mentioned, it generally serves as a second ground frequency. After looking at these taxi routes, you may be able to see why. It takes up some capacity, this tower frequency, and it's called EKCH C tower, C is for crossing, and it will taxi airplanes up and down the runway to feed them to the correct apron entry points. And of course then over to the correct apron frequency, it goes via Kilo 2, 3 and Alpha and Foxtrot for the 04s, Kilo 2, 3 and Bravo for the 22s. Furthermore, the EKCH crossing tower must merge the airplanes for departure. This is the second part of its job. Done at Alpha Foxtrot intersection for 22s and the Delta Bravo intersection for the 04. This is the first chance to ensure that the planes with similar SIDs don't get in line behind each other but are sequenced correctly and reasonably. There's more about the crossing tower responsibility in AD 174 in case you are interested. That's the heaviest stuff done. Moving to the other aprons, it gets simpler. The cargo apron usually just use runway 30 for taxiing in and out, getting airplanes in actually around the apron so the apron controller don't really have to talk to them. This is the easiest. Same goes for the airplanes with the hangar area, just let tower deal with them. However, this brings us to the next point, which is an interesting one. A point you can also find in table 1711, which deals with encroachment. When are other positions allowed to clear into the area of responsibility of other controllers? First, let's just get the ground rules very quickly out of the way. Here's the different AORs, departures. Apron, limit is to hold short of 1230. Crossing tower crosses them, merges them, clears them to a holding point, hands over to the correct tower. Arrivals, tower clears them to hold short of 30, crossing tower crosses or taxis them via the runway and clears onto one of the feeder routes to hold short of Zulu. Apron gets them the rest of the way to the stand. Then there is the exceptions you are allowed to take. As per this presentation, the following are in effect, however there may be more or fewer in the future, so make sure you check the LOP for the updates. The table looks like this, but we're just gonna take them in a very specific order to maximize logical sense. Taxiway Victor between Sierra and Victor 2 allows for the 04 right tower in case of landings on 04 right to taxi the airplanes to hold short of Sierra before heading to the apron. This is basically to avoid queues that bottles up the runway. Via Kilo 1 to Alpha 3234, it just gives the crossing tower the ability to just use Kilo 1 taxi straight to the stand. No need to use the apron controller for such a small taxi. Alpha 123 plus Echo 1 gives the crossing tower ability to taxi them to the holding point. This is the same actually also on 04 right. This goes two ways, meaning arrival taxis will be taxied to hold short of 30 as well, both from the 04 left and the 22 left. This one is interesting though, read it carefully. If airplanes are taxiing on Bravo to cross 30 hold short of Zulu, then you have the choice of completely disregarding the crossing tower. This is very slightly shown in the AOR picture. If you zoom in, you can see we kind of cut the AOR of the crossing tower right there across Bravo, meaning that if the airplanes are crossing, they can stay with the east tower, go straight to apron. If they go via Kilo 3, Kilo 2, then of course they must go to crossing tower. This also means that if they go from 22 left to the cargo apron, they can also just stay with the east tower because, well, makes sense, they need to cross the active runway again. The last one of the ones for the 1230 area, and it's in the case that 1230 is in use, the crossing tower of course gets control of the entire runway. Makes sense. There are also pointers on which aircraft type can go to which holding points, looks like this, but honestly this video is complicated enough, so look into this table yourself and get an overview. The one thing that is worth pointing out though is that the A380 and 747-8, they must go to 04 right to left, as that's the only runway approved for them. Now, if you think this is much, well, we haven't even talked on the 1230 taxi routes, but that's better to have all those procedures kind of as a separate lesson, so we leave it for now. That should do it. Check the appendixes, watch the videos as many times as you need to get this 100% correct. It's important so we all stay in sync. Thank you for watching.